Where are you, Lachlan Wallace from Hillgrove? There you go, sitting next to Aaron. Welcome, Lachlan.
All right, thanks everybody. Today I'll be providing an update on the Kanmantoo copper mine. For those that aren't familiar, Kanmantoo is located just out of Adelaide. It was mined as a series of open pits from 2010 to 2020. During that period, we produced about 137,000 tonnes of copper and over 55,000 ounces of gold. Over the last 3 years, we have been drilling to demonstrate the viability of an underground operation. So the project is fully permitted. All the infrastructure that we need is already in place. This includes a 3.6 million tonne per annum process facility, a tails dam, and as you can see on the screen here, we've already started some of the early underground works and intersected some of the high-grade mineralisation. So I spoke only about a month ago in Fremantle. Since that time, there's been some significant events that have really progressed this project forward and put it genuinely on the cusp of becoming Australia's next copper producer. So I just want to run you through some of those now. So firstly, in late February, we released an update to our feasibility study. We increased the mine life, demonstrated that we had over $200 million in post-tax free cash flow generation. And on the back of that, we also announced some funding. So basically, we're now fully funded, and that enables us to get both going with the underground development, getting it to a sustainable cash flow, self-sustaining position, as well as enabling the expansion drilling to continue, both aimed at increasing mine life as well as annual copper throughput. Now, some of this funding is subject to an EGM, which occurs in late April, as well as FIRB, but on the basis of that all being successful, we basically have started with our development opportunities. So we've got early works underway and we're mobilising a drill rig which commences drilling next week, and we're really on target to produce copper at the start of 2024. So quick corporate snapshot here. Basically, we have a company market cap of $77 million. We have an EV of $57 million, so $20 million in cash. Just want you to keep that in mind as I sort of outline the value proposition here today. The only other thing I wanted to bring your attention to on this slide is basically the carried forward tax losses. So we have $235 million worth of carried forward tax losses, which obviously become very valuable as we get into free cash flow generation. In addition to that, we do hold $17 million worth of franking credits, which enable distribution of up to $50 million in fully franked dividends. The project is located about 55 kilometres from Adelaide. It enjoys really strong community support. In addition to that, we have a government regime there in South Australia that really understands the value that the resource industry brings to the local economy, so much so that we received a $2 million grant last year to undertake some of those early development works. So a real tier one jurisdiction. In addition to that, being based in the beautiful Adelaide Hills makes it a really attractive mining location. Not only is there an opportunity to earn mining pay on an even time roster and be home every night, but you have all the amenities that Adelaide has to offer, which is regarded as one of the most livable cities in all of Australia. And obviously Adelaide has a lot lower cost of living than the East Coast as well as Perth. So once we announced all of the funding, there's been extremely high level of interest from prospective employers, from experienced and skilled technical professionals and operators. So I do not expect that as we ramp up into this operation, we're going to face the same type of labour shortage issues which are plaguing a lot of the FIFO operations currently. We have an excellent relationship with the local communities in Kanmantoo and Callington. The community group is regularly held up as best in industry by state government. On the bottom left there is just a picture of the community just receiving yet another award from the state premier at the time for community excellence works. We roll all of that into a regular sustainability reporting process, all in accordance with the GRI framework, and we map that to the UN Sustainable Development Goals as well as the ICMM. Really proud of this work and would encourage everyone to have a look at that on the website. All the infrastructure that we need is on place. This includes a 3.6 million tonne per annum process plant that we've maintained in such a position that we could upgrade that or get it back into our operations with very low refurbishment costs. We've maintained the power and water contracts, so we pump water through the entire system on a daily basis. We inch the mill every week. We run the conveying and crushing system on a weekly basis. In addition to that, we do hold all of the critical spares that mitigate any type of long-term downtime. So these include things like mill motors, mill gearbox, crusher swing stock, basically everything that we need to maintain continuous operations. In addition to that, we have a fully permitted and operational tailings dam. The capacity of that dam not only fulfills all of the current mine life, but also an additional 3 million tonnes. So as we continue to drill, expand the mine life opportunity, we already have the permitted tailings dam to be able to house all that additional tailings storage. And of course, the pit itself is a fundamentally great asset. It enables, obviously, quick access to get to the deep lodes below the base of the existing pit. As you can see on this screen, we've already started some of those underground works. And that early underground development work has really enabled us to establish a lot of the infrastructure at the base of the pit itself. So we've got now ventilation, power, water, crib, ablution, emergency response facilities already set up such that as we walk in with the jumbo on day one, we're able to take a productive development cut. When we're underground, we saw very competent rock mass, and that really just assists in being able to turn over those development phases really quickly and keep that production rate up. And in addition, only 13 metres in, we hit the high-grade mineralisation, which you can see there on the screen, and started transporting and stockpiling part of that up onto the ROM pad itself, ready for production to commence. So as I said, in February, we updated our economic assessment. Really, that was just based on the starter mine. It was really aimed at getting sufficient cash flow that we can continue to self-sustain the ongoing mine life growth. But some key highlights from that: $205 million free cash flow post-tax, really healthy margins there because we're running about $8,000 per tonne Aussie. So nice healthy margins and look, an internal rate of return there that make most bullish investors just blush. But in addition to this, because we have all the existing infrastructure in place, and we also have close proximity to the ore loads themselves, we only need $25 million of development capital to get up and running. So this makes it one of the lowest capital intensive copper development projects anywhere in the world. Now, these economics are great, but what they do not include is a lot of the drilling from last year, which actually saw an increase to the mineral resource base of 6,000 copper metal tonnes. And so as we roll those in, as well as some of the additional drilling that we did late last year in North Hub, South Hub and Spitfire, which I'll talk to as we move through this slide deck, we fully anticipate that that will translate into an increase in the mine life. So fully funded, as I said, really important to understand that this was 100% equity funding. So we entered this mining development phase without any debt in the company whatsoever. So that provides us enormous operational flexibility. We're not having to orientate the mine schedule to meet some sort of artificial debt repayment schedule. We're able to mine in the best manner to basically generate the most value for the business. Of course, having no debt removes all those debt-related covenants, so it removes a lot of restrictions around things like dividend repayments. So we're able to bring those forward in the plans, keeping in mind that we have $17 million worth of franking credits, so $50 million worth of fully franked dividends. And in addition to that, we've taken around $40 million in financing. So this not only provides plenty of capital to get the operation into a steady state, self-sustaining basis, but also enables us to be able to concurrently get on with the mine expansion drilling. So the funding actually looks like $20 million in debt at this point in time. We have an SPP that's in the market at the moment, closes towards the end of this month for $3 million. And then in late April, we have a general meeting of shareholders to approve a further $19 million, 12 of which is subject to FIRB, as our largest or our offtake partner, Freepoint, who are US domiciled, seek to take a 19.9% stake in the business. As part of that transaction, we also negotiated hedging lines, so 16,000 tonnes of hedging, equivalent to about 50% over the first 2 years' worth of production. As this provides plenty of protection on the downside, while still a lot of exposure to a rising copper price, which we fully anticipate will be there as the world continues to decarbonise through electrification. The project itself is really well leveraged to copper price, so basically all of our loads are characterised by a high-grade core and a lower-grade halo. So at the current copper price, all of our mineralisation all of our stopes are terminating in mineralised lodes. So in the event the copper price goes up, we can simply expand the size of those stopes and bring more of that lower-grade mineralisation into the production profile. And given that we only use 40% of the mill's capacity at this point in time, in bringing in that extra material, we're not displacing any high-grade ore. We're basically just putting more copper production into what would be a higher price environment. So a really unique opportunity having that additional mill capacity. From an exploration point of view, over the last 3 years, we've drilled 122 holes. We've had 143 intercepts of viable or significant grade and width. So basically, every time we're drilling, we're hitting a hole of significant intercepts. In addition to that, every drill program has led to a material increase in the mineral resource base. We've gone from 1 million tonnes in 2019, just shy of 7 million tonnes as we currently sit here today. So basically, key takeaway, every time we're drilling, we're hitting something, and every drilling program is leading to a significant increase in mineral resources. But that's really quite exciting given that the current mine plan is limited by drilling itself. So at the moment, we have 2 work areas out of 9 known lode systems within the permitted lease that are either mined or drilled as part of the open pit operations. And they're both limited by drill density, and they both remain open at depth and along strike. So as we mobilise the drill rig, what we'll be doing is getting into these works over the next week or so. And first will be Kavanagh drilling extension. So the Kavanagh pit itself, this is below, the Kavanagh underground itself is limited to 250 metres in depth, but we've already drilled holes up to 500 metres below the base of the pit, and they're demonstrating that mineralisation is still continuing. Deepest hole that we currently have is 3 metres, 1.1% copper, but a huge 5 grams per tonne gold, and they'll be the type of intercepts we'll be following up on to be able to increase the drill density and drag the mine design down further, and thereby increasing mine life. But Kavanagh itself has had some great hits, had 170 metres, 1.1% copper, 166.9% copper and smattering of gold through those. But by and large, what we see in the Kavanagh opportunity there is it's 10 to 30 metres, 1 to 3% copper equivalent, and that'll be the focus of the stage 1 mine plan, which is shown in black. So Nugent itself, Nugent was an area that was mined in 2015. On the right-hand side, this is a long section of the pit. All the pink holes there are just showing what was mined out as part of the grade control. With the opportunity there, every dot there is above 0.8% copper. What is in the mine plan is the blue model that sits below the base of the pit. And that's what's currently in the economics that you've seen, that $200 million free cash flow plan. What isn't in there is the drilling that we did last year, and that's represented on this plan by the yellow tags with the red dots, and that's added 6,000 metal tonnes to the plan, or to the resource base. Now we fully expect as we bring that into the plan, we'll see the economics increase accordingly. In addition to the depth and strike extensions that we have in Kavanagh and Nugent, we also have a couple of other areas, South Hub and North Hub. So firstly, South Hub, it's a collection of 3 areas. It's Critchley, Pringa and Critchley, Pringa and Emily Star. Emily Star was an area that was mined about 2015, pretty much mined out all the drilling that was done there to date. It still remains open at depth. Recently we put a couple of drill holes through there confirming mineralisation is still extending, and again drilling mobilises next week to continue to work at drilling enough holes in that area to establish a new mining work area. On the other end we have North Hub. North Hub, again, a collection of a couple of areas, North Kavanagh and Coopers. North Kavanagh itself is about 200 metres long, well drilled down to about 100 metres in depth. Late last year, we drilled about 5 or 6 holes, just demonstrating that is continuing down to about 300 metres in depth. We're currently compiling that information into a resource upgrade, and would see that then come into part of the mine plan. So obviously the intent here is to go from 2 work areas which we currently have, which is Kavanagh and Nugent, and then start to bring in place North Hub and South Hub pending drill hole success, and then in doing so really increase the annual copper production opportunity for a relatively low incremental cost. And given that we've got all of that latent capacity in the mill, presents a real opportunity to do so. Very strong news flow as you transition from explorer to producer. Obviously, we've already released the upgraded mine plan. We've announced the funding. Late last week, we announced the commencement of the early works. This is things like dewatering, road reconstruction, some meshing works, just to make sure that as we walk in with the equipment, that we do take that productive first cut on the first day. Over the next couple of months, we also will conclude the funding, and on the back of that, commence production. Now, it's only 7 months from when we commence production until we turn the process plant on and we start generating copper and first revenue flows. So really short period of time, and we're really on track to produce those first copper production in early 2024. So just as a summary, we're very low risk, near-term copper producing opportunity with excellent economics. As you've already seen, there's already 6,000 tonnes of opportunity to grow the mine plan already built into the mineral resource estimate. And as we mobilise the drill rigs that commence next week, fully anticipate that that'll continue to grow. And given that we have all of the infrastructure, permitting and now funding in place, we're very much on the cusp of becoming Australia's next copper mine. And given that we do have an EV of only $57 million, I do believe it's an excellent opportunity. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Lachlan. Well done. Clearly a very busy guy, and how nice must it be to be working on bringing into production and reintroducing Kanmantoo to the world. It's been producing copper for something like 100 years, hasn't it? Yeah, a long time. And only 55 kilometres out of Adelaide. How good is that? Next up, we have my old friend Duncan, Duncan Chessel. Duncan's been to the top of the world. He's climbed Mount Everest a couple of times. He's got a different kind of challenge on his hands now, working on projects in particular in Queensland and Northern Territory. So welcome.